everybody. Welcome to Pinot's Live. We are broadcasting from Glenview, Illinois. My name is Ray. I'm going to be your instructor for today. I'm going to introduce you to all of our supplies. Hopefully everybody is on. Hi, everyone. You can give a wave. I can see some of you. A little bit louder. Does that help? If I kind of project my voice a little bit, does this help? Yeah, I heard a yeah. All right, well, like I said, I'm Ray. I've been an artist since I was little. I never put the crayons down. I went to college for art. I have a BFA in art and design, and then I also have an MFA, a master's in painting as well. So I've been doing this for a very long time, and I really enjoy it. I also work in sculpture and stuff. I'm originally from Texas. I'm a little sniffly, got some allergies to this Chicago weather, but everything will be just great. So if we're ready, I'm going to kind of go over our supplies for today. Your supplies might look a little bit different than mine, but that's totally fine. Everybody can use what's more comfortable to them. So first up, I'm going to go over our colors for today. Make sure we have this. I have a little color wheel that I've kind of painted off just to make sure that we can see what we're using. So we have our white. We have a yellow. We have kind of a dark yellow, or what I'm calling a raw sienna. So if you don't have that color, it's just kind of like a brown and a yellow mixed together. We have a brown here. We have kind of a dark green. It's called a phthalo green. Your green can be a little bit different. Then we also have our black. This will also be my mixing palette, so I'll use it to mix colors, some of our highlights and our shadows and stuff for our cheetah today. Then right next to me, we also have our brushes. Got some little hairs here. So I have a big brush and a small brush. What I have here is a flat or just a background brush. It's flat because it has kind of a skinny side here, and then it also has kind of a wide side here. And that's just going to help us lay in all of our background and all of our big blocks of colors. I'm going to go ahead and put my big brush into my cup of water. You should have a cup of water next to you to make sure that you keep your brushes fresh, you keep them clean, and then during break time, we'll go ahead and change that water out. Then onto our second brush, our last brush. We just have two of them today. I have a little bitty baby brush, or a little round. It's got a nice little point to the end of it. This is going to help me with all those tiny little details and just really make sure that I can get into like fine lines and things like that. I'm going to go ahead and put this into my cup of water as well. Then right next to me, I have some paper towels. I've got kind of a stack of them right here. You can see I already have some paint on mine, just making sure all my colors are right. Now when you go to clean your brush, make sure you're kind of rubbing or like running the brush over the side of your cup to make sure you get all of that water off. And then just kind of dab right here onto your paper towel, and that's going to get the water out of it, help clean your brush a little bit, help to pick up any messes. And then you also have your handy dandy apron. You don't want any of your paint to get past this apron of defense here. If any of your paint does get past some sort of apron or a smock, or if you are wearing paint clothes, that's fantastic too. I have lots of paint clothes that I paint in that are going to be stained for life. But if you did pick up a kit from us or from any of your local studios, our paint is acrylic and it will stain your clothes. Make sure you have something handy by, like a paper towel with some water, to kind of clean that out if you need to. And then of course, our last big supply right here is our canvas. This is what we're going to create our masterpiece on, our lovely cheetah. And at the end of it, I would love to know the name of your cheetah. That's always a fun thing, is getting to name your cheetah, kind of getting interactive with your painting itself. Now, though I am your teacher for today, it's not about grading your painting. It's not about if it's right or if it's wrong. This is all about having lots of fun. And anytime I'm going through anything, go ahead, ask a question. Put it into that little chat box that you have. We have Kaylee back here behind the camera who's going to help me with all of the technical stuff that I don't really know how to do, but she knows how to do because I'm the painter. But if you have questions, chat it in that chat box. If there is a moment, you can unmute yourself to ask a question. But while I am giving instructions, please keep yourself on mute. That will just help make sure that everybody can hear my instruction first. And then when it's appropriate time, I'll kind of let you know, like, feel free, unmute if you're comfortable, and we'll ask questions or kind of chat there. But if we're ready to have some fun, let's get started on our cheetah, yeah? So I'm gonna go ahead and look at the sample painting I did. What we're gonna start off with is drawing the outline for our cheetah. And to draw this outline, we're gonna use our hand as a measuring device. So you can kind of see, I do also have kind of big hands. So if your hands are smaller, just kind of like do an open hand instead of a closed hand like this. So if you see, if I put my pinky at the bottom of my canvas and kind of an open hand, for me, the bottom of the cheetah's face is right where my thumb lies. You can also measure this way, just kind of figure out what proportions you want your cheetah to have here. So we're going to go ahead and draw in the face of our cheetah, which is also about a hand's width for me. Here's our lovely blank canvas. I'm going to use my small baby brush here. Going to make sure I get all my water off, and I'm going to start with my yellow. So not my dark yellow, just my regular yellow. I'm going to kind of roll my paintbrush into the paint, so I have a little bit on here. I'm going to look at my blank canvas. The light yellow. So I'm using this yellow right here. I'm using my small baby brush. Yeah, absolutely. All right, so this is what we're going to do right here. So I'm going to use my open hand from the bottom up, and I'm maybe 4 or 5 fingers from the edge of my canvas. So if you start on the left right here, I'm going to put a relaxed hand, pinky at the edge, relaxed hand in. I'm going to make little dot with my yellow. Can we see that on camera? Or should I change to a darker color? Okay, so you can use yellow for yourself, but I'm going to change to my brown. That way you can see it on camera much better.
We're not able to see the full canvas.
Okay.
There's a logo of the cheetah to the right of your screen, so
Yes, we currently just have the full cheetah up so that you can see what I'm referencing for the drawing currently. Yes? So my relaxed hand on the left, I have a little mark to know how far in I want this to be. And then with that, I'm going to, again, relaxed hand. No, I want a little mark right there. This will be the bottom of my cheetah. It's not quite in the center where I need it to be, but this is just where my thumb landed. So if this is the bottom of my cheetah head right there, yeah, I'm going to make about center here a relaxed hand to create a few points where I want the circle to kind of begin construction for my cheetah head. So I don't have to follow these exact. This is just to help me realize where that circle is going to be. I'm going to actually start just a little bit lower here, just make sure I can see those proportions correctly. And I'm going to draw in a circle. It doesn't have to be too big, doesn't have to be too small. If you feel that you want kind of a baby cheetah, like you can imagine this as a baby cheetah, you can imagine this as like a mommy or daddy cheetah. This is your cheetah, right? So if you want him or her to be bigger on the canvas, draw your head a little bit bigger. If you want a smaller cheetah in more of grass or green around your canvas, then make sure your circle is a little bit smaller. So mine's going to be fairly big. I want my cheetah to take up most of the canvas, as you can see on screen with the finished sample there on the right-hand side. I'm going to try and go more of that size. So if we have a circle here, I'm going to pick up some more brown, and I'm going to make the shoulders. That's totally fine. As you can see, my dots don't quite connect to my circle either. They're just reference points to kind of help you visualize where your next step might go. So for my shoulders here, I'm going to look at kind of this bottom section of my circle, and I'm just going to make kind of parentheses that come all the way down the canvas. And this sketch is just a sketch. It does not have to be set in stone. It's not perfect. This is just to kind of give us some guidelines as to what's happening. So with my parentheses shoulders here, I'm going to create the back of the cheetah. And the back of the cheetah is going to be probably about hand's width right here. So I'm going to actually do a closed hand, so not a relaxed one. I'm going to go with a closed hand and make a little mark beside my thumb, right? And I'm going to start where the head, the circle, and the shoulder connect right here. I'm going to make a little low line that kind of dips down a little bit, but then where this dot is, I want it to dip up just a little bit. So I'm going to come down and then kind of S over it. That's going to be the kind of back end of our cheetah. So the back kind of slopes downwards, and then before you get to your reference point here, you want to just slope up just a little bit. It's going to create a nice back line of our cheetah. Once you're kind of satisfied with your little sketch here, and see I even made like a little hump here, that's totally fine. We're going to repaint this anyways. I'm going to map out where I want the ears of my cheetah. So again, I made two little reference points, thinking about where kind of the top of the head's going to be. If I think about it as this little section that's maybe 2 fingers down from the top of the forehead, I made 2 reference points. And I'm going to make little half circles to create the ears. You can think of them as half circles or as parentheses, whatever shape that makes more sense to you. And now you can see we've got these little ears. I'm just going to smudge out my little reference points so they're not confusing. But now we've got our ears, we have our head, we also have our shoulders and our back. So do we have a cheetah right now? Or at least our sketch of a cheetah? All right, sounds good. Oh, yay, we got some yeses. Thank you. All right, so again, this sketch is just kind of quick. You don't have to spend too much time on it. Once you get kind of the outline of the body ready, then we are going to move on to our background. So when you're ready to move on from your sketch, put your tiny brush inside your cup of water. You don't have to scrub it out. You just have to sit it in there. We're going to go on to our bigger brush. Are we ready for our background? Yay, nays? Awesome. All right, so with my big background brush right here, if you look at the screen, you can kind of see we have like a 3-4 color blend across our background. It sort of moves in these triangular shapes all the way across. And just to kind of help you gauge where that's going to be, I'm going to pick up my raw sienna, so my darker yellow. You don't have to do anything right now, just kind of let me show you a technique, and then when it's ready, I will let you know you can start painting. So just to kind of help you see, I'm using my big brush. So this is how our background is kind of broken down into these 4 sections. Now again, you don't have to make these lines. This is just to kind of help you understand what it looks like. Yes, I'm going to put that in a little bit harsher. It doesn't need to be too dark, just so you can kind of see our sections here. So if you think about our color's going to get from really light white and yellow all the way to this dark green to the left-hand corner. So we're going to blend everything down to the left. So we're going to start in our top right, right up here. And with a clean big brush, I'm going to pick up a scoop of white. So I just laid my brush on both sides into the white paint. And again, you can kind of just watch before you partake. And I'm going to paint in these little X motions. So I'm just going to paint back and forth in a little X or a crisscross fashion. I'm laying my brush from the left to the right. Laying my brush from the left to the right and then the right to the left in a downward motion. I'm going to, yes?
Are we using the dark yellow? I mean, like the little, like the cheetah yellow or the regular yellow?
I'm using the regular yellow, but right now I'm going to just put white on the top left or the top right of my canvas. I'm going to cover the top right corner of my canvas with white. So I know you can't see white on your screen, but I'm going to take this white and X it all over the top right-hand triangular corner of my canvas so that when I start to put yellow on top of it, it's going to blend really nicely into it. So once I have white there, I pick up my yellow and I'm going to do the same thing and X it across my canvas. And you can see a little bit of that technique with this color now. So I'm just Xing across my canvas, back and forth, and this is going to blend into your white. So I'm using the light yellow, your really bright, vibrant yellow. And if you're ready, you can go ahead and start putting that white and that yellow down. You want to work a little fast to kind of make sure it blends. And if you have questions, let me know. We have a question? Lower my voice? Oh, yes. Absolutely. I will definitely slow down a little bit.
Are we supposed to leave like space in these different X and white?
For the top right-hand corner, you should fill it all in with your yellow and your white together. So it's kind of making like a marbly or a cloudy look to it. And you want to make sure you cover all of the canvas in the top right-hand corner. And I'm not going to add any more colors. I'm just going to kind of play with these two colors right here.
Do we go around the canvas too?
Not yet. This color is just for the top right. Unless you want your background to be more yellow and more white, then you can definitely expand those colors outwards. I'm going to stick to my top and to my right. So you can kind of go a little to your left here and then do the same Xing motion. And I'm painting right up to the side of my cheetah. Ooh. That little X motion. The faster you do the X motion, it kind of starts to look like a little infinity sign too. It's called cross-hatching. It's really helpful in just blending everything together. And you can see my little reference point above my cheetah head is still kind of there behind the yellow. So I'm going to just like dab it with white and I'll come back to it in a second. I'm also going to paint the edges of my canvas just to kind of help wrap that color all the way around the edges. Helps make it look a little bit more finished in the end. Also paint the top of it. How are we doing with this yellow blend color? Yes, we're just using our bright light yellow. Yes, so I did this top whole left to right section on the very top of my canvas, and I kind of just blended over the line on the right hand side because you want the color to be fully within this first triangle, and then once it gets past it, you want it to just kind of blend outwards. That way when we introduce the green to it, we can mix the green and the yellow on the canvas. That's a very good question. It's always helpful to kind of re-ask anything or making sure that something is understood. So always let me know what's happening.
Excuse me?
Yeah.
Is it just that white and yellow on the second? Like, is it just like the one color that you're painting right now, or is it like the white and yellow on one side and just plain yellow on the other side?
I did white and yellow all the way across right here.
All right.
So I started white in my top right, and then I blended the yellow all the way across it and put in white where it was a little too dark.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Excuse me, miss.
Yeah.
So what is your yellows being dried out? Should we have our paint wet so we can blend it in with the greens, or go let it or let it dry out?
It is going to be much better if we keep it wet. So if we're kind of to a point where we can start moving into our green, then we can introduce that color. How do we feel about that? Yeah? And so we're going to work with our yellow and our green at the same time. So I picked up green, and I'm going to kind of just trace out the side of my cheetah right now, just to make sure I had those clean lines.
Do we clean our brush?
No, that's a really good question. I didn't clean my brush at all. It still has yellow and now it has green on it. That way the two colors can blend when I put them on the canvas. So I picked up green and I picked up yellow all at the same time onto my brush. So one side has yellow and one side has green on it. That way when you put it on your canvas, you can see those two colors mixing together. And you want to work that into the yellow, but not too much. You don't want it to turn all the way green. You just want to have like a nice light kind of lime color happening.
Please slow down.
Okay. We're going to work with this color for quite a while, so that's totally fine. So just this little bit of green on my brush is mixing right into my yellow. And I'm holding about halfway down my brush right here. If you have a shorter one or if you have a longer one, that's totally fine. I kind of like the long-handled brushes because they work better for my hands. But holding kind of far back, I'm making really soft, light brush strokes across my canvas and that Xing motion again. I don't want to press too hard because if you press too hard, you get kind of a line right here. But if you keep that really soft motion back and forth where you're barely flicking the brushes across the page or the canvas, it's going to help blend all those colors together. If anything starts to dry, just pick up some yellow or pick up some white. That's going to really help blend those colors together. And when you get around your cheetah, you can paint right on top of the line that you previously made. It's going to help block in where we're going to paint our cheetah color next, or after our background's done. So again, just using the yellow, our bright yellow, and a little bit of our green. And I'm mixing that all the way across our canvas.
Are we supposed to go all the way around the cheetah, or is there like a point at the cheetah where we stop, like a neck or something?
You can put this green, you can kind of outline all the way around here. And if you're using your big brush like I am, if you have kind of a round one, that's totally fine. But if you have a flat brush, so it has this skinny side and our wide side right here, it's really helpful to kind of edge around your cheetah with that flat side. So kind of holding it like a pencil with the flat side up and down. So like an arrow pointing to the sky. And you're going to use that to curve around the ear and the face. And that will really help you make those lines nice and thin to get right to the edge of your cheetah. And then you can just kind of brush all over your canvas.
My dark yellow line is still there after I put the yellow over it.
That's all right. If you put in some white, it's going to help cover some of that up.
Okay. I have a question.
Yeah, what's your question?
Are we gonna take a break?
We will take a break. So after we finish putting in our background and we're going to base in the cheetah color, put a little bit of highlight and shadow on him or her, and then we're going to take a 10-minute break and you can stretch or you can have a little dance party. If you learned any dances anywhere, that's always fun to do. I've been trying to learn some TikTok dances, but they're kind of hard to do. My nephew is much better at them than me, actually.
Do you know Renegade?
I know the song, I just don't know the dance, but my nephew's trying to teach me. I'm just not very coordinated when it comes to dancing.
The first time,
My nephew is 10. He's a really good dancer. Better than me at least.
the first time I saw Renegade, it was so confusing.
Yeah.
But then I learned, and it just seems so easy. So yeah.
That's good. It's like when you first learn to tie your shoes, right? It's like a really big thing in the beginning, but once you kind of understand how it works, it gets so much easier, right? So see how I have some of this is kind of drying really fast. It's not blending as much as I want it to. I'm just going to put a little bit of white around it and just keep blending it in. This color, this paint technique, it's all about just continuing to run your brush across it with the white, with the yellow, with your green, and it'll just keep blending it all together and make it look like this really nice grassy field that we're in. And it's kind of nice. Some people like it to be like a really nice soft blend. Some people like it to be really brushstrokey. I kind of prefer when it looks brushstrokey because then you can kind of tell the technique that was used for it. I think it looks a lot cooler that way, but that's just my personal preference. Everybody likes different ways of painting. Yes, you can go ahead and start putting green all the way down there as well. That's okay. So just don't paint over it. Just kind of let it sit, and we'll paint our cheetah color on top of it later on. Because it's just paint. Paint you can always paint back on top of. That's a really cool thing about this medium is you just keep painting on top of it. It dries and you put a new color on top. My green got a little carried away up there. So if your brush gets a little too messy, if there's too much green on it, go ahead and wash it off. So to do that, just in case nobody knows or if somebody doesn't know, you want to kind of stab your brush into your cup. You want to swirl it around, scrubby scrub the bottom of your cup. Make sure all those bristles kind of widen and go apart. It's going to help scrub out all of that paint. And then you just kind of wipe your brush on the edge of your cup. And that's going to be really good to get a lot of water off. And then again, you just dab it onto your paper towel. And look, it's basically clean. There's very little color in that water. And then just to take a little bit more control over this, I'm going to go ahead and kind of blend this top left out again. Those nice soft little brush strokes. I'm not pressing too hard into the canvas. I want some of my brush strokes to show through. And see how this is just not blending. I'm going to put more yellow on top of it. That's okay. We're on our background for a little bit, but you do need to work with your background kind of fast so that it doesn't dry too quickly. And then also during your break, you're always welcome to come back to your background as well. So if the background is not fully done by the time we get to our cheetah color or to the break time, you can always go back and play with your background. Yes, if you feel very satisfied with your background, if you're cool with your colors, then go ahead, take a water break, and then in just a second, we're going to move on to our cheetah color to base in all of this color right here. The bottom left, I put in just green. So the dark green that we have on our palette is the only color that I used. I was actually going to bring in just a teeny bit of white in this bottom corner as well, just to give a little bit more color variation to it. So not too much. I just kind of spotted it in there. And then picking green back up, I'm just going to mix these two colors together. Gives a really nice grassy color to it. And that way I can kind of paint the edge of my canvas as well. And you can use just your green if you want to. You don't have to add in white there. But if you do, I added very, very little. And to any of those of you who may be done with your background, you are welcome to go ahead and paint your edges too. Painting the edges of your canvas is super helpful in making your canvas and your painting look fully complete and finished. So I'm actually going to go around and paint on this side since we have it zoomed in for us. Does anybody know really cool facts about cheetahs? That is correct. They are the fastest mammal on land. Just the fastest on land, correct. Yeah. How are we feeling about our background? Are we ready to move along, or are we still waiting on our background? All right, so we do have a few mixed opinions there. So how about this? The break is going to be after we color in our cheetah. So we still have to color in all of our cheetah first, and then we'll take a break, okay? So if you're still working on your background, that's totally fine. I'm going to go ahead and base in our cheetah so that it has time to dry as well. But if you always have a question about your background, feel free, go ahead and ask in the chat box while I'm instructing for the cheetah color, okay? Kaylee can answer any questions about our background here, and if need be, I can as well. I'm going to move on to coloring in our cheetah, and then during break, we can always answer questions about finishing off our background as well, all right? I want to make sure my big brush is cleaned because we're going to mix a color. We're going to mix the base color of our cheetah. So I've got my mixing plate right here. And our mix today is going to be a big scoop of white, right? Oop, that was not white on my plate. When you accidentally put your brush in the wrong color. So a scoop of white, which means I'm just putting my brush into the paint and kind of scooping up like you would with a spoon. Gonna put that on my plate. And then we're going to do 3 scoops of our raw sienna. Now our raw sienna is just a fancy word for a dark yellow or like a brownish yellow. So if you don't have that color, you can always put a little bit of brown in your yellow and it'll be perfectly fine. You just want a kind of a dingy yellow, dark yellow. Now I've got my 2 colors, mix them all together. Just kind of picking it up, smushing it back down. Don't paint your plate because then you're just kind of painting your plate and you don't have enough paint left over for your cheetah. So just kind of smoosh it around together. I'm going to wipe my brush off on the edge of my plate here. And I'm going to color in all of my cheetah. All of it of it all the way over, right? So you can get real fun with this. Just brush back and forth. I'm doing kind of fast brush strokes back and forth horizontally from the left to the right. You can be kind of messy when you're in the middle. When you get to the edges, that's when you want to be a little bit slower, a little bit more fine lines. So yes, what is your question? I'm using my big background brush. And mine specifically is a flat. So it has this nice little thin edge and it has a wide edge as well. If you use that thin edge, kind of like holding it like a minus sign, they are right there on the screen. We have 3 scoops of raw sienna and we have 1 scoop of white. Excuse me. I get the hiccups a lot. It happens. And I'm just going to paint in all of my cheetah color. Be real slow around your edges so that you can get right up to the side of your green. It's totally fine if your light brown color here gets a little bit in your green. That's totally fine. We're just going to kind of mark it right up to the edge of it there. Be slow on your edges, and then you can be real fast in the middle here. Yeah? Oh, that is kind of true. Like if you mixed like vanilla and chocolate. I'm using my big brush, my really big brush here. Well, I say really big, but it kind of looks medium-ish, but it's the biggest one that I have currently today. And I didn't mix enough, so I'm going to mix some more. So again, that's 3 scoops of raw sienna and 1 scoop of white. Mixy mix, mushy smush, all together. Yeah, I was just smudging out some of my reference points earlier. We are going to put a darker color inside the ear to create that little inner ear section. So I'm actually going to paint right over that darker color right now too. Oh, I could go for some caramel right now. Yes, we absolutely can. You all got me thinking about how I say caramel because I'm from Texas, and y'all say caramel, right? Caramel or caramel? I say caramel, so I don't know how anybody else says it. Okay, great. I'm not the only one. Okay. Caramel. Awesome. Great. It's nice that language has so many different varieties in how you pronounce it. It makes it so much more fun. Caramel. It feels so weird saying caramel. Yes. There we go. Getting some names early on. You could always name your cheetah ice cream then. Okay. And if you don't want to tell me the name of your cheetah, you can always share it on like Facebook or Instagram or any social media and tag us at Pinot's Live. And that way we can see all the different names and all the different styles that you have for your cheetah because I miss having all of you in the studio. So that'd be a great way to kind of get to see you. Yes, when you are done painting your cheetah, go ahead and wash your brush. Oh, that's really cool. I was actually born in Germany. Yeah, that's really cool. I was an army kid. Our break is really close. So I cleaned my brush so that I have a nice fresh bristles with me, but we're also going to go ahead and add in, while our cheetah is wet, we're going to add in some shadow color and some highlight color. So the shadow is just your brown. That's all it is. I'm going to pick up a little bit of brown on my brush, and we're just going to kind of shade in little bits of our cheetah. So I kind of outlined the back of our cheetah, and then I kind of dipped down this little triangle where the first, like the front arm is, just so that we have a little bit of definition, some three-dimensionality here. You can see my brush strokes. It does not have to be perfect. You just want to lightly brush over it. It's going to mix right into that lovely caramel color. Yes. I'm just going to put on this color, and when you get to it, that's totally fine. I want to make sure that this is nice and wet while I blend it. So I'm using really nice soft brush strokes. You don't have to be at the shade part yet if you're not quite there. I can always answer questions about the other portions as well. I'm also going to kind of give a little bit of a chest fur to our cheetah. They have like a little tuft of hair or a little tuft of fur right here underneath their chin. Kind of like a little smile shape right here. And I'm going to, yeah? No, you do not. I just picked up brown, just my dark brown that's on my plate, and I put it right on top of my caramel color so that you can see it's kind of mixing into the caramel color on the canvas. Absolutely. Ooh, tell us your names. Mocha? Oh, that's a good one. Y'all are making me want coffee. Let us know. Or do you want to keep it a secret? Well, we kind of just started. Flash. Oh, that's good because cheetahs are fast. And I'm going to put little bitty tufts of fur in the ears of my cheetah. I'm not really brushing anything. I'm just kind of dabbing it on the canvas. So like a little bitty, like a poking motion to the ears, and that'll give me that little tuft of fur in there. But that is all the shading that you need. Gonna get a little extra over here. So how is that for our cheetah so far? I've got nice shading on there. Are we ready for highlights, or should we wait just a second? Wait? Okay. I'm going to rinse out my brush. So if you are ready, you can go ahead and rinse out your brush. I'm also going to get myself a new paper towel because that one's really dirty. All right, so I've got my nice shading on my cheetah. I've got the base color. Are we ready to kind of get in some highlight here? So we do want to work it while it's wet. I think that's going to be a yeah. For our highlight here, I'm going to use my big brush again. So I rinsed it out. I scrubbed the bottom of my cup. I'm going to use my big brush to mix our highlight color. And if you're still working on your shading, that's totally fine. We just want to get our highlight on before we get to our break. Because once we get our highlight on, we're going to move to our break, and then we'll answer any questions that you have. If you're a little bit behind, that's totally fine. We'll answer some questions during your break, okay? Are we ready for the mix? All right, Kaylee's going to change our slides here. There we go. highlight color of our cheetah. So we have a half scoop of raw sienna and 1 scoop of white. So I'm going to do basically a big scoop of white and put that on my plate, and then just a little tiny scoop onto that white. And it just makes kind of like a really light beigey color. It's almost like a lighter skin tone. And this is our highlight color. Really little bit of color here. And I'm going to highlight our cheetah. Just make sure we got that. So to highlight, I'm going to kind of do a little bit back here. Not too much, really lightly brushing on the cheetah here. Not too much. It's going to go right beside our shadow. Super light brush strokes. I'm barely touching the canvas here. You don't want it to take over. Did you mix, excuse me, did you mix your white and your raw sienna? All right, so then we have a little bit there. We have a little bit of highlight on our shoulder areas. You're just kind of making a little bit of roundness. Well, I have been painting for a very long time, and I have painted this cheetah before too. So I'm a little bit more comfortable with it. But everybody starts somewhere with painting, so it's totally fine if yours is at a beginner stage. So now we're going to put a little bit of highlight around the face. I don't quite have enough highlight here, so I'm going to make a little bit of a bigger mixture. Again, that's a scoop of white and a half scoop of raw sienna, or your dark yellow. I'm sorry? Yes, we'll change slides right now. There we go. Is that better? See some highlights, a little bit here, a little bit here. And I'm also going to do some right around the face as well. The cheetah's neck was just brown. So I just used brown. When I'm highlighting the face of our cheetah, I'm using really short brush strokes. So I kind of did the full around underside here with like a full round scoop. And then I'm going to do really short, soft brush strokes to create some bit of fur texture, not too much because the paint underneath it is still wet. You just want it to softly blend in together. That way the cheeks of the cheetah are kind of white. And then also just a little bit up here on our forehead, kind of like a little triangle. And I have a little bit too much. I'm going to dab, little pokey motion to my ears, give a little bit of highlight to my ears. It's not too much. You can kind of barely see it, but that's the point. You just want a little bit of color difference. Again, I'm using that little pokey motion to blend these colors together. Ooh, picking up a little too much paint, but that's all right. We are really close to our break, yes. This is all I have for before our break, but I'll stay on just a little for a few minutes to answer any questions we have at this stage so far. So all we have is our background, our base of cheetah, shadow, and highlight. So any questions we have currently, I can walk you through. Again, I can walk you through anything for the background, for your cheetah, and your highlight and shadow. I can see some of your paintings on screen. They're looking so cool. Yes, look at that. Aw. These are going so well. I love how bright they all are. What was that?
I think I just found a painter that he's painting my cheetahs.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's mix. I'm just gonna give it mix.
All right, mix. There is lots of mixing on this painting. Aw, look at those cheetahs. I like all your backgrounds have different brush strokes. Those are fantastic. Yes.
Do we have a break now?
I believe we are ready for a break. Anybody else have any questions before I go? We're going to break for 10 minutes. And during our break, feel free. You can clean up your brushes, kind of reset your space here. I'm going to get some clean paper towels. I'm going to rinse my cup of water so I can get fresh water. I might do a little dance break as well, get myself a drink as well. If you have any questions, Katie's going to be there in the chat box. Just let us know. And there's some little facts about cheetahs on our break screen, and there's a question too. So look at that question, let me know what your answers are, and we'll be back in 10, okay? Oh, my glasses are fogging up.
It's
Hi.
heavy rain, so
Are we back?
it's hard to
All
figure out.
right. Hi, everybody. We're back. I could hear a little bit of discussion. So, do we have a consensus about the biggest big cat on land? Tiger is correct. Yes. I looked up my information from National Geographic, so if you have other information, I tend to go to the actual animal sites to make sure I'm getting my information correct. But it's really fun to get to learn about animals. My glasses are completely fogging over, so I'm just going to take those off. Are we ready to start working on our cheetah again? Yes, I'm going to take that as a yes. So, is your cheetah face wet?
My cheetah still has some drying left, and my brushes are right now like getting all excess water, paint that's left off of them. So they still need some time to clean.
Okay. The face of my cheetah is also just a little bit tacky in some places, but I think we'll be fine. Your brushes should just be totally fine if your brushes are wet. They just need to be clean of paint. And our big brush is also done being used for right now. So we're going to just kind of take a look at what this bigger overall finished picture will look like, and then we'll kind of discuss how to start drawing out the face. So, looking at our current state of our face versus the finished face, we're going to start kind of mapping out these little eyes and this lovely line right here for the cheetah's mouth, for the cheetah's nose and mouth, our cute little jelly bean shape right here in the nose. And we're going to try and use our hands to measure out where everything goes. So, this gets a little bit more mathematical here. It's not really numbers, it's just kind of measuring. And we'll use that to make sure we have our spacing all correct. But if your spacing gets a little bit different, that's totally fine. All cheetahs look just a little bit different. Even my painting looks a little bit different from the actual one on screen. So it's always nice to kind of have those differences so you can see the differences in our cheetahs. So I'm going to use my lovely little baby brush. My little brush right here, nice and pointy. And with my mixing palette, we're not mixing a color here, we're just kind of watering down our black. So I want to, my baby brush, my little pointy detail one. So right here on screen, little baby pointy brush. And I dipped my brush into the water and then let it fall onto my mixing plate. So I've got a little bit of water on here. And I'm going to dip it into the black and then just mix my black paint with my water. That way we have a little bit of a thinner color so it's not too thick. And I'm going to use it to map out where I want my eyes and my nose. So I'm going to go about 2 fingers up from the bottom of our cheetah face and use that to make a little dot in center. Yes?
What was the combination?
It's just a drop of water and black. It's not really mixing a color, it's just watering down some black paint. So I just dipped my brush in water and I dipped it in the black paint and I swirled it all together. So looking at where the center of my face is, I did about 2 fingers up from the chin. And then from there, I'm going to also make another one 2 fingers up from that line. And this is going to be the start of our mouth. Can you see those 2 little dots on screen?
Wait, so 1 dot, 2 fingers above from the chin, then where's the other dot from?
I did 2 dots up from that one. And they're in the center of the face.
Wait, where did you go off of? I mean, like measure.
Oh, 2 fingers up. So I did 2 fingers from the chin to the first dot. And then from the first dot to the second dot up, I did 2 fingers as well. So just approximately, I'm also compensating. My fingers are kind of big, so I used a little bit less, but yours should be fine. You just want to kind of get this initial center dots down. You can just draw one a little bit higher up because these two dots are going to become a line actually. So I just drew a line connecting the two dots. And again, I just dipped my brush in water and mixed it in a little bit of black paint. So with this line right here, I'm going to make kind of a Y shape. So pretend that this is kind of the stem of your Y. I'm going to make a really wide Y at the top of it. Now the measurement of that is just about, I have about one finger off the side of the right and one finger off the side of the left. Yours can be like 1.5 if you want to. You just want to make a wide Y. This is going to start the nose of our cheetah. Excuse me. The two dots became a line. Yeah, it's kind of like a little triangular shape. And then I'm also going to do that same shape on the bottom of it. And the bottom is a little bit wider. It's not so triangular. If yours is a little bit more triangular, that's totally fine. But this is your basic shape that you want to start the nose, the little line connecting the nose to your mouth right here. How are we doing on that? All right, so I'm going to pick up a little bit more black. And for the nose, I'm going to make a really cute little jelly bean shape. So you can think of it like a jelly bean, or you can think of it kind of like a wide heart. And to do that, I'm going to hold my brush a little bit further away. I'm also using my pinky to kind of stabilize my hand. So if my painting's a little bit tacky, I'll kind of hold my hand away from the painting with my pinky, and I'll draw my little jelly bean or my little wide heart shape here. And this is going to create our nose that then you can fill all the way in. Yes, what is that? Let's see. We have to draw the lines of our face and our eyes. Then we're going to make spots all over our cheetah. Then we're going to put some highlights on our face, and then grass, and then we're done. You are? Did you not get a snack during break? Okay, well, maybe you can get a snack after. All right, so now that we have our nose and our little mouth shape down here, we're going to think about where and how we want to draw out the circles of the face. So you can see there on the screen the finished painting, and this is so I can kind of point to where it is. So we currently have our nose, triangle, and jelly bean in. We have our little mouth Y down here. So what we're going to do now is make two dots right between where the eyes are supposed to go. So not in the middle, but right on the insides of where our eyes are supposed to be. And that's going to make us kind of reference where those lines right here on the sides of the nose are going to be drawn in, okay? So let's get to that part. Going to again wet my brush. I'm not cleaning it, I'm just wetting it so the paint's really thin and it's going to help move off of my brush much easier. So I'm going to again just kind of remember where the center of my cheetah's face is, and I'm going to do about 2 fingers wide a dot on either side, which basically means if you kind of measure the sides of your nose and your mouth up, that's where those 2 dots are going to be. So if I hold my brush actually like a measuring device, I can just kind of dab it onto my canvas where I want those lines to be. If you want to measure them, and those aren't quite straight, but we just need a kind of a reference point. Let's see, that's about 3 fingers from the forehead down. So it's kind of the middle space between the nose and the top forehead. And that's where you start the little insides of your eye. I'm going to go ahead and draw those in. They're little bitty kind of like almond or football shapes. They're very similar to the shape of your own eye. Some people call them like little lemon shapes, little almond shapes, little footballs, little jelly beans, whatever shape kind of makes sense to you to make these little lines, these little eye shapes. So it's kind of curvy on the inside, and then it's pointy on the outside. It's okay if you get a little bit inside. We are going to fill our eyes up with green later on, so that's okay if they're a little bit thick. Now from the inside of our eyes, we're going to try and connect down to our mouth. So to start that connection, I'm going to go ahead and make a little smile on both sides of my mouth. Right? So I've got a little smile right here on both sides. You can also kind of round out that center line. And then using kind of one sweeping motion, I'm going to start at the eye and sweep out towards the corner of my face, towards the cheek. Excuse me. So a little line sweeping out, connecting to that smile. So it starts a little bit in, and then again it sweeps out to our smile. Cheetahs have this really cool pattern on their face. They have these little bitty fur lines that create these really cool patterns and spots all over them.
I have a stuffed animal of a cheetah.
Oh, you do? Well, that's good. You kind of have a live reference there. My cheetah's a little lopsided, but that's all right. If I can get...
Maybe I can show you.
Maybe you can what? Show me? Oh, yeah. When we have kind of like a little show and tell later, you can definitely show us on camera. I'm going to refill in bits of my nose because it was a little bit thin. How are we doing on those eye lines? I'm also going to kind of soften the in-between. So look at the difference in this side of the eye. I made the little curve come down, and this one just goes right up. So if you kind of soften that curve, it looks a little bit more like that fur line, that fur pattern that's happening. And again, all cheetahs have very similar markings, but they all are slightly different, giving them their own personality and their own little kind of character to them. Using that same black, I'm going to make a few little fur marks around the eyes. And just to kind of reference here, whoop, gonna drop that. We've got these lovely little fur strokes coming off of the eyes and right down the forehead right here. So I'm going to do a few of these little marks. They're not perfect. They're just short, little bitty swishes of your brush. So I'm going to start on the right eye right here. Just a few little fur marks. It's going to be a lot more fur paint strokes later on. This is just the beginning of them. These are kind of the darkest spots. And then to make the forehead ones, you want to make kind of these little triangles that come down the middle. They don't have to connect. They just want to kind of look like that. They will be covered with some other spots as well. So you make just a few little fur marks that come down the center of the forehead. This is just black, yes. Just black. And I'm just kind of laying my brush on the forehead, making my little spots. Not really brushing it. I'm kind of just laying my brush on the canvas in the direction that I want these lines to go. And every now and then I'm wetting my brush so that it stays nice and fresh. Okay. The best thing to do if you feel you have to repaint something is always just to let it dry. Because that way you can just kind of put a whole nother color on top of it. So the little fur marks that I'm making are just kind of like accenty fur marks. They're not super intentional. They're just kind of outlining away from the eyes. Cheetahs have these really cool pattern markings again, and they're all slightly different. So if yours kind of follow this pattern, then you're doing perfectly fine. I'm also going to take my black and do a little bit of fur tufts in the ears. You don't want to cover up all of the brown. You just want to put a little bit in there. That way there's just a little bit more fur inside there. And then I think once you get those down, we're going to move on to our spots. So are we comfortable with where our face is currently, or do we need a few seconds? All right, okay. I just used black right now, but we will put brown on top of some of these later on as well. You're welcome. So I'm going to put my little brush away, and I'm going to pull out my big brush, my big background brush. And we're going to mix our spot color. That way we can get these nice big spots on our cheetah, make it nice and spotty so that he has a really cool pattern to him. And our mix is going to be 2 scoops of burnt umber and 1 scoop of black. So the burnt umber is just your brown color. 2 scoops of that and 1 scoop of black. Mix those together. You're just really making a really dark brown. Nothing too special, just a dark brown here. The dark brown. If we're looking at my color wheel here, it's going to be this one right here where my finger's pointing. Does that help? Absolutely. The burnt umber is just brown. So you just mix brown and black together.
Can I put the picture of the cheetah back up?
There we go.
I added the color black. It's now completely black. It's not really mixing. Black is just typical.
Okay, so take the current mix that you have and just do 1 scoop of the mix off to the side and put in 2 scoops of your regular brown on top of that. See if it lightens it up a bit. So the mix you said that was too dark brown, that was too black, you can just take it off to the side, put a little bit of your brown in it again to make it lighter, or you can take that dark yellow that we have, the dark yellow, and put 1 scoop of that to make it lighter too. But you do want to have a dark brown so that we can create some spots on our cheetah.
Excuse me, is this supposed to be like a chocolate color?
Yes, like a dark chocolate.
Yeah.
And then when you're ready with that color, you just want to take your brush. If you have a flat brush like me, I'm using the wide side. If you have a round brush, that's totally fine too. You just want to use kind of the wide portion of your brush. And I'm just going to lay it on my canvas. I'm not going to brush it too much. I'm just going to lay it on there, excuse me, and make a few spots. They can be a little bit varying in size. You can see some of the little brush stroke, little bristles, the little hairs that kind of come off of it. That helps it to look a little bit more like fur too. And I'm not following a pattern. You don't want to have a line of spots all the way across. You want them to be a little bit different. You can go down with them. You can hold them up as well. We're going to put some light brown on here as well as the dark brown. So don't cover all of your cheetah. Just put them a little bit around it. Yeah. The color mix is, I have it written down right here. It is burnt umber, so you're brown. You want to do brown and a little bit of black. So I did like 2 scoops of brown and a small scoop of black. And I just did a few spots across the body. You don't want to do anything on the face right now, just the body. And I kind of kept them in like a domino pattern almost. You know the 5 on a domino, how it's like 2, 1 in the middle, and then 1, 2. I kind of followed that pattern mindset so that they're not on top of each other. They're not really in a line. They're kind of moving in this direction. That way you have them kind of all around the cheetah. And once you've got these dark ones on, I'm just going to wipe my brush off. I'm not even going to put it in water. Just wipe it off on a paper towel to get some of that darkness off. And I'll pick up just brown, not a mix, just my brown on my palette. And I'm going to fill in some other spots in that space. And I'm using the wide part of my brush right now. But when you're ready, you can also turn your brush to the skinny side if you have a flat brush like this. And you can make a few smaller spots around as well. And again, I'm not really brushing anything. I'm just kind of dabbing or poking at the canvas to make these little marks. And your cheetah pattern is going to be a little bit different than mine because all cheetah's patterns are slightly different. Gonna try not to overdo all my spots here. You can get a little too carried away sometimes. Just go over a few of mine that are already on here. Mix all my little colors together. This is the last layer of spots on the body of the cheetah. So depending on where you want your spots, then absolutely put them where you want them right now, okay? Yeah, so this is where you get to put as many spots on the body as you want to. If you want to make it really spotty, then put lots and lots on there. If you want just a few, you can do that. Doesn't have to be too crazy. Yes, you may clean your brush. After we're done with this portion, we're going to move on to our smaller brush anyways. I think this is the last time for our big brush right now. So if you want, you can go ahead and scrub that brush out, get all the paint out of it. I'm going to dab it in the bottom of my cup again, scrub the bottom of the cup, make sure all that paint's coming out. I'm going to press it against the side of my cup to make sure all the water is coming out as clear as possible. I'll dry it off on my paper towel and I'll set my big brush to the side. How are we feeling about our spots on our cheetah here? Good? All right. Do we think we're ready to put some more spots on our face here? Yeah? All right. Cool. So I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to put my eye color in real quick so that it has time to dry before I put in the highlight. So I'm going to pick up my baby brush, my baby pointy brush, and I'm going to make my cheetah's eyes green. But if you want your cheetah's eyes to be a different color, go right ahead, be creative with it. I've seen people do lots of different colors for the eyes of this one. I'm going to use my green to paint right inside the black lines. And it's really cool because the green is a little bit translucent, which means it's a little see-through, which is really cool on top of the cheetah color because it almost looks like it's glowing. It got a little glow to it because you can see some of that cheetah base, that yellowish color from the fur underneath the green. It makes it look a little glowy. Do we have a question? No, you can use any green that you want to. Does that help? Hopefully. Great. So now that I have green up here, I'm going to rinse out my brush, scrub the bottom of my cup. I'm using my tiny pointy brush, my little bitty detail brush. And what we're going to do is make some highlights around the face. Right? So that's okay. I used our green color and filled in the eyes. Yeah. So on our face, we're going to have some of our brown spots, and we're also going to have some of our white spots because there are some little white spots on there as well. So I'm going to start with my little brown ones, and then I'm going to put on some white ones around as well to help make the roundness here, make a little bit look more furry and not so roundish, right? So I'm just going to use my brown, no mix, just brown. And I'm going to create these lovely little spots right here on the cheeks and a little bit more around the ears just to give some of this shape. Yeah, what's that?
So after we do this, can I show you guys my cheetah?
Absolutely.
I forgot to tell you I have two.
Okay. Well, now you have 3 because you're painting one.
What color are we using?
So I just used brown, and I'm making tiny little fur spots, little brown fur spots around the cheeks of my cheetah here. So I started right under the eyes, and I'm making them point outwards. So they're not just straight up and down, they're not side to side, they're kind of at this diagonal from the eye to the bottom corner of the canvas on both sides. I'm making these tiny little cheetah spots. They're not really overlapping. Oh, I don't know if cheetah's eyes are green. In my head, from what I've seen of like Animal Planet and National Geographic, I actually thought that cheetah's eyes were like a really pretty golden color, like a golden brown, a golden yellow. So maybe somebody wants to Google that and let us know. But I'm pretty sure that they're golden color. They're not actually green. Mm-hmm. Okay. That's really cool. Yeah. Just like I was born with blue eyes, but now I have very green eyes. So these little spots, they're real soft, they're not too harsh, really spotty around the face. You don't have to have too much of them. I just did really light dabs of paint for these little spots. Yeah, that's what I thought. There you go. Maybe if they're like reflective enough. I don't know. That's really cool though. That's cool. So how are we doing with the spots around our face here? All right. Ooh, purple eyes are very cool. All right, so now that I have my brown spots on the face, I'm going to put some white around my cheetah's face now. So I'm not mixing any colors. I'm just using a little bit of white on my brush. And I'm going to make little tufts of fur that come right over the line of the face into the green just a little bit, and make little tufts of fur along the forehead, some over the forehead, little polka dots here. Also going to make little bitty ones over the ears. You don't want too many. You don't want it to be like a halo of white fur here. You just want a few here and there. And then it gets a little bit heavier with the white fur when you get to the chin of the cheetah. So that's where you have a little bit more of that white fur poking out. So again, I'm doing those little bitty brush strokes, kind of flicking my brush up and down. It's much nicer when the fur follows the direction that it grows, and the fur grows from the center outwards. So I always start towards the center and flick out to the outside of my cheetah. And then you can also do this same little fur pattern up into the chin. And they can overlap a little bit towards the chin and they get further apart as it moves outward. And then right inside here where the nose is, there's also a little bit there. Not too much, just a little bit. So after your brush is almost fully out of paint, I'm going to use a little bit of that white to kind of dab into the bottom of that mouth nose portion right there. That same little flicking, kind of pressing my brush to the canvas, but not really brushing it down. I'm just kind of flicking or pressing it into it.
Excuse me?
Yeah,
Which brush are you using again?
I'm using my really tiny detail brush. Yeah. You can you can also take this highlight color and do a few highlights on the shoulder and down the back of our cheetah too. You don't want too much here, just a few, just to make it look like there's a little bit of light shining right there. Our cheetah also kind of has these little white eyebrows. Short little strokes, little bitty kind of curvy lines. Doesn't have to be too clean. It's a little messy because it's just fur. I like to do a little bit under. Just gives some nice little texture to our cheetah. I'm going to rinse out my brush. You can totally still be working on your highlights, no worries. But when you have a chance, when you need a break from the white, go ahead and put in your iris, the little black part of your eyes on your cheetah. It's kind of hard to see, but when you're looking at your painting up close, it really makes a difference. And while we're at this stage, you can kind of just play with what's on your cheetah right now. If you see anything in the original painting versus the painting that I'm doing, you can kind of recreate that on your cheetah itself. There may be a few little fur marks that I've missed, or maybe I put them in different spots, but you want them to be more like that one. Feel free and put them in. You can really play with the fur of your cheetah for so long, you get kind of lost in it. But once you're ready, you do want to take your brush, your teeny little bitty brush here. I'm not going to use the bristles of it. I'm going to use the actual handle of my brush. So the end of my brush, the handle, I'm going to use that to create the highlight of the eye. So what I'm going to do is dip the end of my paintbrush into the white to make a little dollop. And that's just going to dot perfectly to the side of the eyes of my cheetah, and that's going to make that little highlight there and make it just a perfect little circle. Just in case anybody missed that, I'm using the end of my handle. I'm not using the brushy part. I'm using the end of my handle. I'm holding it like a pencil. I'm dipping it into my white paint, and I'm just dotting the canvas where I want that little white highlight to be in the eyes. And then I'll go ahead and wipe that off so it doesn't like get my hand all messy.
Excuse me?
Yeah.
At the end, can you put on details on my cheetah?
Absolutely. You can do your details anytime you want to. Even after this whole session, you can come back to your cheetah and put in more fur spots or more little texture bits. You can keep playing with your cheetah as long as you need to. Do we think we're done so far with our cheetah, or do we need to wait a second?
Are we doing grassy parts?
Yes. That is our next step, is grass.
I'm done.
All right, so I think we are good to start putting in some of our grass. While we're doing our grass, you are totally welcome to keep putting on some spots or some highlights. You're welcome to keep finicking or like little, yeah. So you can keep playing with that if you want to, but I'm going to move on to the grass and make sure we get that technique down so that you can ask any questions before we end, okay? So this part, there's no mixing portion to this. It's just using our tiny brush. So I washed all the white out of it using my tiny detail brush here. I'm going to pick up just green, picking up green on my brush. And from the bottom of my canvas here, I'm going to start making little blades of grass. And to do that, I'm going to make sure my brush is off the canvas and then swipe up, little bitty swipes all the way across it. And you can make them go to the side, you can make them go left, you can make them go right, you can make them go straight up. You just want to put a whole bunch of little bitty grass all along the bottom of your canvas. And it's kind of like when you're painting here, you start on the canvas, but then you kind of take off. So you move your hand away from the canvas as you go upwards. And that's what's going to kind of give you that little point of grass at the end of it. And you can mix this color. You don't have to mix it. You can just pick up different colors as you're painting the grass. So I started with green, but I can also pick up yellow. I can put that in some of the grass blades. It's going to mix with the dirty green on my brush and make it different colors of grass. I can pick up a little bit of black, make those grass strokes. That way you have a little bit of difference in your grass blades. Again, I'm doing this all the way across the canvas, all along the bottom. Little grass all the way across. Just short little flick motions. It's kind of fun because you're just doing the same motion over and over and over. You're just little flick, little flick. I'm even doing it all the way into the green on the left-hand side there. And again, some of my grass will be tall, some of it will be short. And then we're going to put in all the tall blades in here just a second. Make sure my bottom is covered here, all the different grass blades. And then once I kind of got all these little short ones in, I'm going to pick up some black on my brush. I didn't wash it out, so there's a little bit of green on my brush just as well. And I'm going to start, you can do this one of two ways. I'll show you both. You can start again off the canvas, and then you airplane off to make those longer strokes right here. But you can also, I'll do one over here, you can start off the canvas and then kind of land your brush as you're moving downwards, kind of like you would think about an airplane landing on a runway. So your brush is the airplane, your canvas is the runway. I'm going to move my brush towards the canvas and down and then press. So I'll start really lightly, and then as it comes down, you see it gets a little bit wider towards the bottom, and that makes kind of that blade of grass shape. And you can do that with different colors. You can do it with greens, you can do it black, you can do it with white. You can widen up the end of your grass blades here. I'm going to put in a white one, so there's still green on my brush, but I picked up some white, and I'll put a little bit there. Might have been a little too much black on there, it kind of turned gray, but I can always put yellow back on top of it. You just want a few blades of grass here that make it look like there's bigger, longer pieces outside of your canvas kind of coming in, because your canvas is just a window. Your canvas is just a window to a much bigger picture, right? So I'm going to pick up green and yellow at the same time. Make a few over here. Whoop, you can't quite see that. Maybe put a little white in my yellow. Make a lighter green. And just have fun with your grass here. It's fun just to make little blades of grass. You don't have to have too many. Just make a few and then kind of step back from your canvas, take a look at it, see if there's like a blank spot or an empty spot, and you can put a new one in there. Do we have any questions so far, or anything from before this step that we have questions on? No questions? All right. Well, we are getting really close to the end right now. And again, I had so much fun with you. Like, y'all were a really good group, and I would love to see some of your paintings here on screen if you want to show them up here. There we go. Oh, look at these. Y'all have some really cute smiles on here. Your spots are all wonderful. I can see a lot of variety in there. That's the best part, right? Is seeing all the different types of spots you can get. Oh, somebody has a tiger background. That's cool. Oh, these are so fun. Yeah, what's your question?
Can I show everybody my cheetah now?
Yeah, just show it up on screen. We can all see. Oh, these are so good. Oh, I like that grass is doing well. These are super cute. And feel free, again, tag us or tag your local studio wherever you are, because I'm in Glenview, Illinois, but you may be somewhere way out different. You can, you can, oh, we're looking for you right now. If we can find you. Oh, there we go. That's so sweet. That's a big cheetah. That's a big stuffed animal. Very nice. These are all so good. Thank you for joining us today. And it's so nice to finally get to see some of you. I know it's hard not being in the studio right now. We can't really see face to face, but it's so nice to finally, hi, there I am. It's nice to kind of interact with you again. It's been a lot of fun. Again, tag us. We want to see all of your work. We want to share your work. It's hashtag Pinos Live. Feel free to tag your local studio. This is Glenview, Illinois. But this is so much fun. I had a blast. Do we have any final questions before I go? I see some head nods. No? Okay. Well, thank you for joining me. I had a lot of fun. We hope to see you for our next class. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.